All right. Friday update, February 26th, 2021. Today's going to start a little different than normal, given the recent developments yesterday in Springfield. I just want to show everybody something if you've never been to the lodge. This is our memorial wall. The names highlighted in blue are obviously the fallen officers. The ones with the tape: Herman Stallworth, Kenneth Kaner, Anthony Rosado, and Sergeant James Severin. The murderers of those officers have been released from Illinois correctional facilities since I have taken office. Two of them yesterday. 8-4 vote. One of the murderers of Severin and Rosado hadn't received a vote for parole ever. Yesterday, the tide changed. 8-4. 8-4 for the murderer of Herman Stallworth, who absolutely admitted he did what he did. And what he said was, I am the instrument that killed Officer Stallworth, but clearly God decided he wanted him. That's how ignorant some of these killers are. And unfortunately, the Illinois Prisoner Review Board is now stacked against law and order and civilized society. These are governmental appointees by the governor, and they're definitely not our friend. They're letting more and more of these old school murderers out of prison because of their age. That's just where we're at. We're going to keep fighting. There's several more in there, but it highlights the importance of who is in that governor's chair and who they appoint to these committees and their mindset against law enforcement. For those of you who have never attended a meeting, all right, back in our normal spot here. A couple things to touch up on before we go. There was an incident that recently made the news about a vehicle stop that tragically resulted in the death of a pedestrian through no fault of the officers. The vehicle fled as soon as the officers got out after initiating the traffic stop. They decided to drive recklessly, high rates of speed, to avoid arrest and caused a collision and then hit a pedestrian and tragically killing her. Now, why were they trying to avoid arrest? Well, because the wonderful driver was out on a attempt murder bond. He had already had a case for aggravated robbery and a conviction as a juvenile for robbery. The passenger in the vehicle, his law-abiding cousin, was out on a bond for UUW and had an ankle monitor on and wasn't supposed to be leaving the house, but he's out joyriding with his cousin with a gun in the car. That was recovered on the passenger floor. They, of course, both point the finger at each other, but the more serious charge is the murder of a pedestrian. Now, the news media and said scumbag lawyer are trying to say there's no way the police were not chasing him. He would not have been driving at such a high rate of speed if the police were not chasing him. Well, the evidence shows otherwise. The police did not chase him. The GPS on the vehicle for the squad car says they never were going over 33 miles an hour. That is not a chase. Video shows that the squad car showed up on the accident scene about 2.5 blocks away from the original stop, 8 seconds or more after the collision. They clearly were not chasing. But that's not stopping people from trying to change the narrative. And even the victim's friend is trying to say that the city has to have some responsibility in this situation. There's no reason to make that statement unless you're already trying to line up an ambulance chasing lawsuit, because the police did nothing wrong. But we're always made the villain in this equation. Have you heard anybody from the city say anything in defense of these officers, including the police department? Nope, not really. It's a theme. The detective who was robbed, beaten, and could have very easily been murdered in Hyde Park a couple of weeks ago. It was not your average battery to a PO situation. Do you think that he received support from the police department, from the upper ranks? I'm told the chief of detectives, Denahan, definitely followed up with him. But do you think the mayor called to see how he was doing? Nope. Superintendent didn't call and check on him from what he said. Um, I know I'm catching heat for the us versus them mentality, but if the story downstairs in front of the memorial wall isn't enough evidence for you, there's some more of the us versus them. There's a lot of people who just do not care for police, and sometimes even our own don't back us up when they should without even question. But here we are. Some other things. I touched about my detractors. This office has a door. I know you're shocked, right? Well, that means that door opens for anybody. All you have to do is call my assistant and schedule an appointment. I have plenty of open slots. I have not said no to a single police officer who wanted to have a meeting with me and discuss whatever topic they had an issue with. Not one since I've taken office, and I'm not going to. So anybody who's out there in the media, for whatever reason, good, bad, or otherwise, who's trying to say they're not happy with the representation of this lodge or me specifically, well, that's through no fault of anybody but your own. You have the ability. This is your lodge. I'm just the one who's heading it right now. This seat changes quite frequently. Maybe it changes in 2 years, maybe it doesn't, we shall see. But until then, I am going to be president of this lodge, no matter what the mayor tries to do, no matter what the police board tries to do. I'm going to finish out my term at the very least. But while I'm here, our goal and the team that I headed was very clear from day one. We were going to represent every single member of this lodge equally. So if I'm falling short on that, it's up to you to point it out. You want to point it out to the media first and do whatever you're going to do, that's on you. I'm not begging anybody to come here. I'm just letting you know there is an open door policy. We have strived to diversify involvement, participation, voices, concerns within this lodge. Before COVID really kicked up again toward the fall, the first several meetings of this lodge, and if you didn't attend them, shame on you. I get everybody has other commitments, but I could tell you firsthand, there were new faces in the crowd, unlike anything I had seen in my 25 plus years on this job. New minority voices, faces, more women than ever before, and anybody who's been around in these meetings would testify to that fact. This isn't just my take on what the general meetings were about. It's reality. So I can assure you that we are doing outreach. Another issue is that we're not doing ourselves any favor when it comes to the community. If you do not know, one of the things we did in the summer, again, before COVID started kicking up again and we were forced to suspend it, was community outreach. And it was being facilitated in cooperation with Dr. Willie Wilson and some of the people on his team, specifically to the ministers in this city. The first meeting we had, I believe, was in July. Had about 16 ministers, different denominations, mostly minority. Matter of fact, all minority. And the second one a month later was, I think, 19. And then the third one, 2 months later, had 72 ministers or concerned citizens. There was a handful of those mixed in who were invited to come to the lodge and talk about who we are as representatives of this lodge, what we do for our members, what CPD does, where we're looking to go, what's different about us than the FOP in the past, and basically who we are as human beings, individually. And I could tell you, everybody that attended those meetings got a better appreciation for all of those topics. Nobody left with a bad taste in their mouth about the FOP or anybody representing the members of Lodge 7. So the point being is we've done this outreach and we're going to continue to do this outreach. The goal was to do it every month with Dr. Wilson. We're going to be starting up here again pretty soon come springtime, hopefully, as COVID dies down and concerns and fear gets a little alleviated. But all I could tell you is I believe we're on the right path. We're going to continue the course that we've been on. There is a general meeting that's been rescheduled. Your book will say it's March 17th, but it's going to be the 24th instead. The 17th is not doable, but it will be a noon meeting on the 24th of March. Please consider attending. If you can't attend, as always, feel free to call. Have a safe night. Stay healthy, and consider getting vaccinated. Up to you. I'm not telling anybody to do anything they don't want to do, but there is a second round of a push to get other members of the department vaccinated. Their emails are going out to the department email. I don't have one of those anymore now that they're trying to fire me, but so be it. And just on that note, as I said it before, it matters not what the mayor tries to do. It matters not what the police board tries to do. It matters not what a concerted effort by any group is going to try and do. I will be the president of this lodge for the last 2 years of this term. Maybe beyond, maybe not. We shall see. But no matter what happens with the police part of my career, I'm going to maintain the presidency of this lodge, and I'm going to keep fighting for every single one of you to my last breath as hard as I can, evenly across the board, whether I know you or whether I never met you. And I will tell you this, lastly, the if I haven't met you part. I was very fortunate to participate in a function earlier this week, and it was a very sad occasion, usually. It was for a detective, one of our own, active member, who was dying of pancreatic cancer. I had never met this detective, Jeff Wojtel. There was a arrangement to have a final send-off, knowing that his days were coming to an end. And after gathering on Tuesday, or Wednesday, I should say, there was well over 200 officers who showed up, friends, co-workers of Jeff. And like I said, I had never met him, but after that function, I felt like I've known him for quite a long time. We are our brother's keeper and our sister's keeper. It was heartwarming, to say the least, to see so many people take time out of their busy day to come and say farewell one last time, and make sure that he knew he was loved and appreciated. And we need a little bit more of that. A little more unity is going to go a long way, because I can tell you there's enough people trying to divide us from the outside for political gain. I'm not going to let that happen. So how about helping me not let that happen? Have a good day. Have a safe weekend.